Beyond the buzzer, inside the game, this is Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
Glad you're with us here this Thursday. Larry Smith here with the Sports IQ. Some great guests coming up. We've got Chris Bingle talking NBA playoffs. We'll get into that in just a moment. He's standing by. And then we'll also talk with Kyle Hampton. We have the second leg of the Triple Crown coming up this weekend with the Preakness, though it is at Laurel Park, will not be played or not be run at Pimlico, I should say, because they're undergoing renovations. So does that change things? We'll find out. We'll talk with Kyle. Have him back here. Good to have him back here on the show here in a couple of minutes. Let's get to a couple of headlines right now. Crazy comeback kind of night on the playoff circuit. Just when you thought a lead was safe, the tables turned. Detroit in the NBA, the top seed in the East, coming home tied at 2 with Cleveland. Chance to put this series on ice for the most part. It looked like they would do that for the most part. The Pistons, a 15-point lead in the first half, still maintained a 103-94 advantage with a bit more than 2 minutes left. But much like the other Detroit failures here, the Pistons' engine blew, and the team failed to get to the finish line, kind of like the Edsel. Cleveland won on a 9-0 run, tied the game at 103. Detroit scoreless from that point in the fourth quarter to midway through the overtime session. So Cleveland building a 17-point bulge, holding on for a 117-113 win, and a 3-2 lead in the series. James Harden had 30 points, Donovan Mitchell 21 for the winners. So don't count out the Pistons, though, just yet. Remember, this is the same team that trailed the Magic 3-1 in the opening round and then won 3 straight to win their first round series just over a week ago. They had won 5 in a row in this series, as now the Cavs get their first road win in these playoffs. They will see if they can close out the top seed and favored Pistons tomorrow night in Cleveland. The NHL playoffs in Colorado also featuring an even bigger comeback. Minnesota Wild coming into last night's game, trailing the Avalanche 3-1 and knowing the season was on the line. When Minnesota came out of the gate like a caged grizzly bear who had not seen food for a few months. The Wild getting 2 goals from Nick Foligno and then a goal also from Marcus Johansson, take a 3-0 lead at the end of the first period. The Avs pulled goalie Mackenzie Blackwood after that and put in Scott Wedgwood back in, and then the Avs started chipping away. Parker Kelly got one back in the second. The Wild still hanging on, looking good, until Jack Drury found the back of the net with just 3:33 to play. Down 3-2, Colorado pulled the goalie. Their all-world forward, Nathan McKinnon, getting in the goal for just 1:23 left to send the game to overtime. And that's where Brett Kulak, who had not scored a goal since January, put the game winner into overtime, just 3:52 into overtime, giving Colorado the win. And so the Avalanche overcoming a 3-goal deficit to win a playoff game for just the third time in 53 tries since moving to Denver. It's amazing, that stat. The Wild had been 21-0 when leading a playoff game by at least 3 goals before the elimination loss. Up next for Colorado, they get the winner of the Vegas-Anaheim series in the Western Conference Final.
Well, thanks so much, Larry. NBA playoffs have been interesting, this year. Some have gone exactly the way you expected. Some have not gone the way we expected. And we're lucky enough to have a good friend of the show, Chris Bengal, join us again. He's with Prize Picks. He's there one of their NBA writers. And Chris, it's been kind of an interesting ride so far in these NBA playoffs.
Yeah, it definitely has been interesting. The NBA is one of those leagues where, a lot of times the playoffs kind of go as you'd expect, leading through the conference finals, and at least till we get to that point. But this year it's been, I think, maybe not quite as cut and dry as it has been in the past. I mean, obviously the Thunder have looked impressive, but some other teams have as well. But there's been, opening round, we saw the Magic take the Pistons to the brink. I don't think anybody expected that.
Yep.
Celtics are already out, so it was a lot of unexpected twists and turns in the opening 2 rounds.
The Pistons have been really such kind of an enigma in these playoffs. They played themselves into a 3-1 corner against those Magic, managed to rally, even at one point overcoming a 24-point deficit in one of the games to get Game 7 on the books, right? Now they had a chance to go up last night and take a 3-2 lead and make it easy on themselves. Look good early in the second quarter. They're up 15. The shots are falling. The ball is moving. And then stagnant. Things stopped moving. Couldn't get the ball across half court. Couldn't shoot. Everything. It's like if it could go wrong, it did go wrong for them, and they still got it to overtime with the Cavs. But what do you think is wrong there in Detroit? I mean, they look so good in the regular season. Maybe not thunder good, but good for the East.
Yeah, it's been a little bit of a Jekyll and Hyde situation for Detroit this year. Obviously, uh, top team in the East, and had all the makings of a team that can make a deep run. The East, is fairly open. I think a lot of people thought the Celtics were probably the team that could come out of the East, but kind of once they were eliminated, I think it's kind of right for the picking for the Pistons to make a run, and it just kind of hasn't happened. I think a lot of it has to do with they're not getting the production from Jalen Duran that they got during the regular season. I think he's had 3 games in the series in single digit points. I think you just can't have that with an interior presence like he has. He's kind of that double double machine type potential on a nightly basis, and I think, Cade Cunningham last night had a great game overall, 39 points, 9 assists, I believe it was, and just,
Mhm.
you know, looked incredible at times. And, obviously had them in that game, and even, doing all he can in, overtime and late in the game to keep them in it. But they just didn't have another player score over 20 points last night. And they just need more secondary production, and they're just not getting it from anyone not named Cade Cunningham.
Yeah, it's been an odd situation with them because, like you said, Jalen Duran should be putting up better points. And it's not like, I mean, Cleveland is pretty good in the interior. When you've got Allen, you got Mobley, they can, kind of rotate off, rotate on, maybe frustrate that player a little bit, kind of get in his head a little bit. And I think maybe that's something of what's happened to Duran in these playoffs.
Yeah, I think there's definitely something to be said for that. You kind of have the, kind of twin towers, so to speak, down there. That's a ton of athleticism with Mobley. And, Allen is one of the premier rim protectors in the league. And, that definitely has seemed to frustrate him a little bit. I think at times, even in the Magic series, too, you know, uh, Duran didn't really show up to the level that I think he's capable of. So, I think that's something that's definitely going to have to change in the next game. Or I think, Detroit's headed for a second round exit, because Cleveland just looks like, stealing that game last night, I think stole a lot of the momentum and going back home. I mean, they have, 2 chances to close this out, one of which coming at home
Yep.
in the next game. So, kind of everything falling well for them right now.
Meanwhile, the Knicks are just sitting back, resting. They made quick work of the 76ers, 4-game sweep. Only one of them was remotely competitive. The other three were pretty well blowouts. They look like the most well-rounded team in the East. And I'm wondering, Larry and I talked about this earlier in the week, but I would have to give some of the credit to Mike Brown, because last year that the Knicks team under Thibodeau looked tired. They looked worn out. They look like they weren't quite ready. This team looks fresher, more ready. Their legs look better. They're hitting their shots more, coming into these playoffs, like maybe taking 4 or 5 minutes a game off for each player each night is helping them in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, they're just relentless, I think is how I would kind of describe them. They just keep coming and coming at you. And, there was kind of no rest for Philly in that series. Aside for I think it was game 2 where, Sixers were up pretty good deal of the way. And, if they don't go cold in those final, 4 minutes, they probably could come out with that win. But even still, series obviously was not close. The Knicks offense was just absolutely electric, just hitting perimeter shots left and right. OG Ananobi was, sensational as those first 2 games before he was banged up. But I think Karl Anthony Towns was probably the player that impressed me the most. The way he is seeing the court right now is, unbelievable. Leading the team in assists, just seeing the floor so well. And, I think that's a very underrated part of his game. And if you're getting, 6.5 assists on a nightly basis from Towns with, those kind of assets that you have, funneling in and out on that team, they're going to be a tough team to beat, for whoever comes out of this Detroit and Cleveland series.
Agree. Yeah, I think more and more in my mind, I see the Knicks in the finals against someone from the West, and in the West, before we get to the Thunder, because they had an easy run, but looking at the other series, looking at the Spurs series, the Timberwolves have done everything they can to frustrate Victor Wembanyama. It's been borderline, not dirty so much, but really clutchy, grabby, holding. What are your thoughts on the way they've attacked Wemby in this series, and is it good for the league to allow that? Because you can't grab, you can't hold in the NBA. At least you're not supposed to, as far as I know, the rule book.
No, it's definitely been the most interesting series of this round, I think, just for, kind of the theater of it. Obviously, game 4 we saw the Wemby ejection and, kind of him being grabbed kind of maybe pushed him to that point where he, throws that elbow, gets Nas Reed, and ultimately it's ejected. Ultimately it doesn't get suspended, which, obviously good for the Spurs, would have completely changed the trajectory of that series if he had. Maybe they don't come out with that winning game 5, but I think, there is that fine line where, playing aggressive defense is fine, being up on a guy, whatever. But I think once you're grabbing that much, and, there's been a lot made of, the foul calls when it comes to SGA with the Thunder, being, he's being slightly touch and getting his foul call. So if you're going to call the game like that, it's hard to kind of let some of these other calls go in this series. So I think it is that fine line, and I think you kind of can't let it get out of control. The officials have to be on top of it, or you're going to have another situation like we saw in game 4. And, you just can't have that, putting, these players in those situations where they're, getting a little more physical than you'd like.
Speaking of SGA, a great player can get to any spot he wants on the floor. But I have noticed, especially when the games are tighter early, he likes to push off a lot to get his open shot. If you watch his forearm, his off ball forearm, it's dribbling here, getting ready to get a shot. It's boom this, throw that arm out, get some space from that defender, and then take your shot. I don't know enough about the rule book, but it seems to me that ought to be a foul.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I think he definitely gets some grace from the officials. I think there's no doubt about that. I mean, again, like you said, a phenomenal player, one of the best that we have in this league, and there's no doubt about it. Pound for pound is just an electric scorer. Make any shot from anywhere on the court. Tremendous passer. All this, but I don't think I don't think he needs any extra room to make those shots. So, kind of you do see him create that extra room on some of those step backs where he, kind of does, push that arm out and kind of gets that extra little bit of breathing room, which, maybe to the average fan doesn't seem like much, but ultimately, that's huge when for some of these defenders. And when you have to play suffocating defense on a guy like him, or he's going to hit those shots, or he's going to get to his spot. So, I think that does need to be called a little more. I don't know if they're afraid to call as many, big time fouls like that on him in those big spots. But early in games, I certainly don't think it hurts to, toss a foul call this way if he throws that forearm out and creates that separation.
Yeah, I mean, one thing, I officiated high school sports for 25 years. The best way to control something or the best way to stop something is to call it early. You call it
Yep.
early, it doesn't happen later on. You let it go.
That's the precedent.
Yeah, it's going to be, they're going to, he's going to do it all game long and he's going to expect to get away with it. Then if you try to clamp down, now you've got an issue on your hands. Let's talk about the Thunder's opponent in the last round, the Lakers. The Thunder made easy work. It was a sweep. No Luka. Was hard to, see the Lakers even getting a game there. What about the Lakers' future? I think that's an interesting topic that's going to be around this entire offseason. Do they bring LeBron back? Do they look to use that money for other pieces? Obviously, the star of the team right now is Luka. It's no longer LeBron. He's obviously a generational great player, probably one of the top 2 or 3 greatest all time in the league. No doubt about it. But he can't be the centerpiece anymore. If you're the Lakers, do you let him walk, or do you try to bring him back and add something around him to make one final run?
Personally, I don't think the Lakers are that close to a title where it makes sense to bring him back. Ultimately, I think, it kind of would make sense even on his end as well to, kind of pursue another opportunity, because I think, is he as elite as he was? I think no. I think we saw this year was the first kind of, I certainly don't want to say breaking down, because he's still a great player and still,
Right.
For his age is phenomenal and would certainly help any team get over the hump for chasing a title potentially. But I just think the Lakers are not as close to being a huge contender in that Western Conference. Obviously, with Oklahoma City, with San Antonio, with obviously Houston's in that conversation. A lot of teams and, kind of muddled in the middle there. Minnesota as well, obviously, is, might be the 3rd best team in the West this year. I think it would just make sense for them to kind of, make Luka the guy. Obviously, everyone knew that was coming anyway. Have him be the centerpiece of the franchise. And, you obviously have a great second, borderline second star in Austin Reeves, who, obviously when he was out, we saw how much that affected the Lakers. So, I think it makes sense for both sides really to, kind of part ways and, for LeBron, maybe, to have more of a chance to chase a ring in the final, year or 2, however much longer he's going to play.
We got about a minute left here, Chris. Do you think you can build a championship contender team around 2 players, Austin Reeves and Luka Doncic, who are not very good defenders? I mean, let's be honest about it. Neither one is a solid defender, and Reeves may be even worse than Doncic on that end of the court. Can you realistically become a contender with 2 liabilities like that on your main roster?
I think it's possible, but you also have to press the right buttons with the rest of those key pieces, the rest of your starters, and a lot of those rotation pieces. Obviously, they bring in Marcus Smart, who's obviously a great defender, very kind of aggressive, physical guy that has obviously had a solid career up to this point. You need guys like that throughout your roster if you're going to have 2 players like that certainly aren't the most elite defensive players. And, they're going to have to push them to try and improve defensively. I think, obviously, you're not going to see Doncic become, first team all defense or anything like that. But I think, you're going to want to see more from your star players and, to give anything they can. And if you're, you want to be an NBA title contender, that's what you're going to need. And they need to give everything they have.
Absolutely. Chris Bengal, thank you so much for joining us. Chris is the NBA writer for Prize Picks online. Go ahead, take a look at what he's telling you out there and get you some good inside information as we head down to the home stretch of these NBA playoffs. Chris, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
We are going to take a quick break here on the Sports IQ, but we are going to be back with more after a timeout.
I get a lot of calls from people across the country who are suffering from the affliction of IRS tax debt, and that's because I have a remedy. Hi, I'm the tax doctor, and if you're having any of these tax issues, call me right now. My team specializes in helping people over the age of 50 solve their tax problems, and the bigger your tax problem is, the more money you can save. If you owe the IRS money, or you're about to owe the IRS money, or even if you need to file years of unfiled returns, call us right now. Our friendly, highly trained representatives are waiting right now to take your call. Over the years, we've helped thousands of people just like you stop the tax liens, wage garnishments, and harassing phone calls. You don't need to send the IRS a big fat check. We can negotiate a lower amount. That's what we guarantee for you. So call us right now. Call 833-789-3068.
Are you paying too much for term life insurance? There's a tremendous price war among the major term life companies. Rates have dropped dramatically in the past few years. For example, a man age 45 non-tobacco user, $1 million of coverage is only $75 per month, level for the next 10 years. Or a man age 50 non-tobacco user can buy $500,000 of coverage for a monthly premium of only $110, guaranteed not to change for the next 20 years. That's right, level rates for 20 years. And if you're a smoker, we have great rates for you as well. At the Term Lifeline, we specialize in policies of $500,000 and above. So if you're looking for new or replacement term life insurance, call right now for a free quote.
Rates and availability may vary by state. Sample rate quotes are based on preferred non-tobacco underwriting exam required to qualify.
Call 855-826-7932. 855-826-7932. That's 855-826-7932.
You're listening to Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
Well, some other news today. The NFL looking to make the Thanksgiving week their own personal playground. For the first time in NFL history, there's going to be a game on Thanksgiving Eve, and it's going to be an NFC showdown with the Rams hosting Green Bay on Netflix. The matchup marks the first time in the Super Bowl era that the NFL has had a Wednesday game in November. The NFL has been playing games on Thanksgiving for more than 100 years now, but this season marks the first time the league scheduled a game to be played the night before Thanksgiving, November 25th. This tradition will likely be sticking around with Netflix signing a deal to stream the game for the next 4 seasons that takes us through 2029. And that gives the NFL 1 game on Wednesday, 3 on Thanksgiving Day, including the Bears playing the Lions, 1 on Friday, and at least 1 on Saturday, with the rest being played Sunday and Monday. The league will release the remainder of the 2026 schedule later on here tonight. On the college front, meanwhile, Matt Rule, 19-19 overall after 3 seasons at Nebraska as one of the nation's highest paid coaches, hasn't beaten a ranked team yet and just watched his 5-star quarterback, Dylan Raiola, leave for Oregon here in the offseason. You know, it could be worse after his firing from the NFL's Carolina Panthers back in 2022, but Rule's return to the college game has been anything but smooth on the field. His checkbook sure looks nice, and it's getting even better. Nebraska has dibs on anything across the media landscape relating to Coach Matt Rule. That's according to documents obtained this week by the Omaha World Herald. The Huskers have a $5 million NIL and intellectual property agreement with Rule, which allows the university to profit from the House Rules podcast and any apparel-related merchandise featuring his likeness. The documents include Rule will earn $13.5 million in 2026 as part of that one-time payment. The upcoming season marks year 4 of a deal that was extended through 2032 last season during Penn State's coaching search. You know, he's a Penn State alum. A lot of rumors he might be heading back to State College, but he stays put. Up to 75% of Rule's salary at Nebraska will be paid directly to him, with the rest paid to his LLC, according to the agreement. Just imagine what Rule might get if he actually beats a ranked team or gets the Huskers to the college football playoff. Remember, year 3 in his coaching career was always the magical season at Temple, at Baylor. They made great strides in year 3 with Nebraska, but still a long way to go to reach those kinds of levels. All right, stay with us. Quick timeout. Much more to come here on the Sports IQ.
Are you tired of your website making your business look bad? Is your current web developer dropping the ball? Let's face it, if your website isn't making you money, it's broken. Let Neon Rain create a website that turns your visitors into customers. Neon Rain has worked with hundreds of businesses across North America, building custom websites and applications with modern designs that are easy to update and work well on mobile devices. They can do it for you too. What sets Neon Rain apart? they actually deliver on their promises. Call today for a free consultation. 303-957-3092. That's Neon Rain at 303-957-3092. Or visit them at neonrain.com.
Fans of big sports radio and sports spectacular podcasts have a new home on the Chief Sports Network. Find your favorite programs and content all in one place by downloading the Chief Sports app in your mobile device. Created in South Carolina, the Chief Sports Network is the home of an expanding network of live and podcast format programming. It is also the home of one of the leading national college football podcasts, JC and Morgan, hosted by ESPN's Mike Morgan and 24/7 Sports' JC Sherbert. Download the Chief Sports app for free and find all of your favorite programming under one easy umbrella. Thanks to all of our markets for your loyal support of Big Sports Radio and our Sports Spectacular podcast, and we look forward to connecting with you anywhere in the world on the Chief Sports app.
You're locked in to Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
Producer Tony is with our next guest.
Well, thanks so much, Larry. And, second leg of the Triple Crown goes off this weekend down at Pimlico near Baltimore. And it's always exciting. These three races are just so special, so neat. I go back to my father was a horse racing fan. In fact, owned a horse in upstate New York for a little while. But we would go to Saratoga at least every other year and see the races up there. And it was always so special, so neat to see. Didn't get a chance to go to Pimlico. Been to Churchill, but not Pimlico. So I always look forward to watching that race on TV. And we're joined by our friend Kyle Hampton, who is with twinspires.com. He is one of their racing experts. Kyle, thanks so much for joining us again to kind of break down and talk about what will be happening on Saturday.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Tony. Really great race. You got, 4 runners from the Kentucky Derby coming back to run in the Preakness. I think one of the biggest stories in there is Taj Mahal with Brittany Russell. We saw Cherie DeVoe, the first female trainer, win the Kentucky Derby. Now, Brittany Russell, a female trainer, has the first chance to win the Preakness as a female trainer. And it's the only Triple Crown race that has yet to be won by a female. Nancy Alberts in 2002 came the closest when she ran second in there. But no, it looks to be a
it should
great
be interesting.
race
Of course, we're missing the chance. There'll be no Triple Crown winner. Golden Tempo, they're sitting the horse out. Just wasn't enough time for them to recover, he said, to get ready. Is that something you think Pimlico needs to look at in the future, or the Triple Crown Series needs to look at? Do we need to extend this? Because we've had a couple of horses in the last few years that have won the Derby and then have decided to sit out the Preakness, because it's just too quick. Is there a way to lengthen that out and make it happen?
Yeah, it's a very tough situation. I don't know the exact answer because you've had horses in the past that, can go on and win the Triple Crown or at least run in the majority of the Triple Crown races. I know they've been asking a lot of trainers what their opinion is on it. Brad Cox, very prolific trainer, he thinks that they should probably extend it and move it out. I think, you have to look at, the equine health and safety. And if they think that's what is best to be able to, get more horses in the Preakness, then I think that's probably the best route to go.
Yeah, I think it would be. I just like seeing the horses going for the Triple Crown. It's always such a great storyline, and I'm trying to figure. Is there anything other than the health of the horse do you think would keep folks from wanting to run the Triple Crown? Are they putting so much focus on the Derby these days that the Derby just matters so much more because it's such a prestigious race? It's the biggest race in America. Is that part of what plays into maybe not being able to get that horse ready? You've spent so much time getting them ready for this one race that it's just not possible to turn it around that quickly.
Well, yeah, I think definitely the timeline plays a big part into it with, Derby being the first leg of it. All of these 3-year-olds are trying to prepare for that. And then they get to that race and, it definitely will take a lot out of them to be able to run in such a high level race. And then you then have to shorten the horse back up in distance to run in the Preakness, and then extend them back out to run in the Belmont. And a lot of these, Derby runners like to go long, and, having that cut back in distance is a little tough for horses sometimes. Whereas when they go back to the Belmont, they get to stretch back out again.
Absolutely. So we've got a number of horses that ran in the Derby that are coming back. Should be an interesting field. I mean, it was a great finish to the Derby, no doubt. What do you look for as far as this race? Do we think we have a pace setter out there that's going to set an early pace? Is there somebody that might be this mid shot like Golden Tempo was in the Preakness that might have a shot?
Yeah, this race, whenever I first just start looking at any race in general, I always believe in pace makes the race. And there is tons of early speed in this race. I mean, it looks like majority of more than half the field is going to go to the lead. So it's going to be very interesting to see who goes to the lead. I think it sets up perfectly for a closer. Who I'm going to go with in there is Incredible, who ran in the Derby, decided this week to run in the Preakness. I mean, he's a true closer. He showed toughness in the Kentucky Derby despite having a little bit of a traffic trip. And then, when you look at him and his timeline, he ran in the Virginia Derby. He had 7 weeks off to then go and run into the Kentucky Derby. So he probably wasn't as fit heading into the Kentucky Derby, but still ended up only losing by, I believe, 4 lengths. And so when he goes into the Preakness now, he'll be a lot tighter, a lot fitter. And with all this early speed in here, I mean, you have Taj Mahal, who's probably going to go to the lead. Chip Honcho wants to go to the lead. Pretty Boy Mia, who's on the outside, he'll probably want to go. So I think it's just going to be a full-on duel starting out, going up to the lead, which will then set up for Incredible to lay off the pace and then run.
Yeah, I think that, like you said, the pace makes the race. If you've got 3 horses that all want to get out there to the lead, it seems to me like there's a good shot, just knowing as little as I know about horse racing, but that they might all burn each other out over that first half mile, 3/4 of a mile, and not leave anything at all in the gas tank for the last part of the race.
Yeah, and you always have the possibility of, people are, the jockeys and the trainers, they talk it over, their race strategies, and they decide, let's not send, we're just going to sit off. And then that leaves the opportunity for someone who does decide to send their horse, and they can just go on the lead, set easy fractions, and then go gate to wire. I mean, Taj Mahal in here, who's a true front runner, he's basically won every single race on the lead besides his maiden debut, which he won just sitting off the pace. But I mean, he draws the rail. He's going to have to go, and he's going to get just, slammed over and taken back if he doesn't go. So I feel like Taj Mahal is going to have to go, and whether if he can go and sustain, that's a question to be answered.
Explain to our viewers, because I'm not sure, our viewers, listeners here, explain to our listeners what it means to be closer to the rail at the start. It seems to me you kind of want to be in that middle gate, almost like swimming, right? In a swimming race, you want to be in lane 4 or lane 5 in that middle. You get less wake, you get less disturption. You're better off. Is it the same kind of thing, or what is that jockeying for position that goes on to with those horses who are on the inside as opposed to the middle or the outside?
Yeah, obviously the rail is the closest way home. You have less ground and less distance, so everyone's going to be trying to get over to the rail as much as they can. You don't want to be out 6 or 7 wide heading into that first turn just to, it's a ton of ground you're gonna lose. And so when these jockeys are breaking from the gate, everyone's trying to get over. And if you're in the, inside post draws 1, 2, and 3, and you either need to go back or you got to go in the front, because everyone from 14 and over is just going to start pushing over to the rail as close as they can, especially in a race that's, a mile and a 3/16. If it was a sprint, a 5/8 race or 6/8, that may be different. But especially when you're routing, it's substantial.
It really could be. Tell us a little bit more. You mentioned the female trainer. Give us a little bit of her background and her history and what she has done, with this horse to get him ready for this race.
Yeah, so Brittany Russell, she's been dominant in the Mid-Atlantic region. She was an assistant trainer under Brad Cox and then went off on her own in the Mid-Atlantic. Her husband is a jockey in Maryland as well. And this horse, Taj Mahal, actually started out in the Bob Baffert barn for, SF Racing and Starlight Racing and Matticat Stables. And then they decided before the horse ran to send the horse over to Brittany Russell in the Mid-Atlantic. And he won on debut, ran a nice number there, then came back. They put him right into a stakes race, and then the Miracle Wood. And then most recently, last time out, he was in the Tessio. And when you talk about the Tessio is a win and you're in for the Preakness Stakes. So if you win, you automatically get a berth into the Preakness. But the Tessio really has been just a dreadful prep. And in regards to the Preakness, no horse has come back and won the Preakness in like over 30 years running in that race. The closest was Ichabod Crane in 2008. He ran third. And so I think it was the past has not gone better than sixth place finish in the past 30 years running in the Tessio. So yeah, it's been a very bad prep race in regards to Preakness, potential to win. But, Brittany Russell has a chance here to change that. And also, too, with her being a female trainer as well, a chance to change.
Yeah, that would be an
well.
interesting, dichotomy of this race. Having seen the female trainer win the Derby, if the female trainer were to win the Preakness, that would be really cool, to kind of see that history-making event take place, two big races right in a row. I know the Preakness has been bought, if I'm correct, by Twin Spires. What kind of changes do you think that'll make as we move forward? Is it just going to be just basically we're just taking over and we're going to run it exactly the same? Nothing's going to change. It's all going to be the exact same way it's always been because it's perfect the way it is.
Yep, I believe that's just the way you phrased it. Yeah, it was more just Churchill Downs bought the IP rights to the Preakness Stakes.
That makes complete sense. That makes complete sense. When they're breaking, how is the size of this field compared to the Derby field? And are we going to see, some of that jockeying for position that we saw in the Derby happen here? And you've watched racing more than I have. How much are they allowed to bump and nudge before we see somebody wanting to file an objection about the race results?
Yeah, I mean, it really just depends on the stewards that are, stewarding that day. Usually it's 3 stewards. They each have a vote, and what 2 to 3 wins the vote. But in regards to a horse getting disqualified or a jockey lodging an objection, I think most stewards look at it from the sense of was the jockey who impeded, potentially causing the horse to not have a true shot at finishing better than what their placing was, in regards to the inquiry or the impediment that they caused. If the stewards don't believe that the bumping or a horse coming over and taking over into their path really caused a difference or didn't cause a difference and change to the results, most of the time they'll leave it the same.
That sounds good. So give our listeners here one quick couple minutes summary. What do you think? What are you looking for to happen in that race as it progresses? What should we be looking for at home as we're watching the race and as we're watching it unfold?
Yeah, so I think Taj Mahal for sure going to have to go the lead with the 1 post. I think Chip Honcho has speed. He's going to go too. Great White is an interesting horse. He scratched late from the Derby. He flipped behind the starting gate and had to scratch out of the Kentucky Derby. He's coming back into the Preakness. I think he has some speed that he can use on the outside. Pretty Boy Mia also on the outside. He's probably going to go to the lead. I see it as you'll have, 3 or 4 or 5 horses maybe up top running for the lead, and then be probably pretty considerably fast fractions if I had to guess, just based on these horses' running styles. And then I'll look for Incredible and Ocelli to run up late. I have Incredible on top, Ocelli underneath, and then Taj Mahal to hang on for third. Now, when we look at it, Ocelli, also a Kentucky Derby graduate heading into the Preakness. He had a ground-saving trip in the Kentucky Derby, and when they removed the blinkers from him, a few starts back, I mean, he really just became a lot more focused of a horse, which seems, quite opposite. But I think if the speed collapses in this race, it's perfectly positioned for him as well as it is incredible. One long shot that I think is interesting that's worth a look is Corona de Oro, who's the number 11 with Johnny Velasquez on for Dallas Stewart. This horse didn't get into the Kentucky Derby. He set on the AEs. He had enough points, so to speak, to get in to be on the also eligible list, but enough horses, there were not enough defections to be able for him to draw in to the Kentucky Derby. He ran third in the Lexington at Keeneland. And, this colt, when he started making his debuts, they were running him short in sprint races, and he looked like a horse that just needed to go a lot longer. They finally put him in a maiden special weight down at the fairgrounds, going a mile and a 16th, and he ended up winning that race by 4.5 lengths and ran a quite considerably well number, and then put him into the Lexington in Lexington, Kentucky at Keeneland, and he ended up running third that day. Same issue with what we're talking about with Taj Mahal. He drew the rail and he had to go. There was no other, so he got slammed over into the rail, and he stayed up on top the whole way around and ended up running third in that race. But I think this gives Johnny Velasquez a good opportunity to maybe allow him to just rate the pace and sit off of it. He doesn't have, since he drew the 11 post in the Preakness, he doesn't have to send his horse like he did in the Lexington. It'll give him a little bit more of an opportunity to let his horse relax and sit off the pace.
There you have it. There's your race preview for the Preakness coming in. Kyle Hampton of twinspires.com. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate the insight and the knowledge. Hope you enjoy the race on Saturday out there.
Yeah, thank you, Tony. Really appreciate it, and good luck to you and all the
Absolutely. We're
going to
take a quick break here on the Sports IQ, but we're going to come back with more right after this.
Listen, were you forced into getting a solar contract and now you just don't want it anymore? Maybe the solar company misled you. Or is your solar contract buried with hidden fees? Are you not saving the amount of money you thought you would on your energy costs? Don't worry. At the Solar Exit Hotline, we can help you cancel your solar contract, even if the panels are already installed. Our experienced legal team will review your contract and help you cancel it, possibly saving you thousands of dollars. You got to call right now for complete details. So listen, if you're not happy with your solar contract for any reason, we are here to help you cancel it. Call the Solar Exit Hotline now for immediate options to help you exit your solar contract. This call is 100% free.
Call 855-227-0286. That's 855-227-0286. Call us right now.
Do you want to save money on your next flight? Then pick up the phone and call. That's right, call. Because the best prices on airline tickets are not online. They're with SmartFares. See, SmartFares has special deals with the airlines. When they have unsold seats, they use SmartFares to fill them. So you get airline tickets at ridiculously low prices. They have access to great prices and discounts with over 500 different airlines, plus 300,000 hotels and rental car companies. Their prices are too low to publish online. The only way to learn more is make a free call. With the extra money you'll save, you can book another trip or treat yourself to dinner or shopping. So stop searching all of those travel sites to find the lowest price on your next trip. Let one of our SmartFares expert travel agents find the best prices for you. Call SmartFares today and get the best price on your next trip.
Man, so much to talk about. Producer Tony joining us right now. And hey, listen, Tony, we didn't get a chance yesterday to talk about this, but the NFL schedule coming out, they're going to release their whole schedule here Thursday night coming up. The international schedule coming out, 9 games now abroad. We've got more than one team playing multiple games. Roger Goodell already has said he'd like to see this at 16 international games. We're still a long ways off, if ever, of seeing a team calling some city outside the U.S., outside North America, as their home. But boy, they are doing everything they can to really load up and get as many of those international dollars as possible.
Yeah, they're going to the bank as often as they can and cashing those international checks. I don't know what the players think about it. I've read some that like it, some that just don't like it. I think there's two things they got to work on. I don't understand how I don't get Australia. I think you're really asking too much of players to go to Australia.
Yeah.
Nothing against the country, but they're halfway around the world. And you're talking about a 12-hour time difference. You're talking about having to play a game that's going to be on at 8 o'clock at night here, playing it at like 10 o'clock in the morning there. That's opposite of everything they do all season long.
Yeah.
And then you got to come back and pick up the rest of the season. I agree. The only time it's going to work is the very first week of the year. Other than that, there's no way. Right.
Yeah.
And so, okay, I get that. But I just think now you're taking it a step too far to me if you're the league. And at some point, I think the players are going to kick back and go, look, we're going to agree to international games, but they have to be here or here or here. That'll be worked out in the next CBA. And I think that with the schedule, the other thing they did, Larry, is it wasn't leaked today. They allow certain things to leak before the schedule comes out. The Wednesday night game. Oops. Not sure how this got out, but they're going to have a Wednesday night game before Thanksgiving. Okay, so you are really taking that weekend. They are trying to rip that weekend entirely away from college football. What has normally been the end of the college football regular season, they're trying to make that a bigger deal for the NFL than anywhere else because they're going to have games Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I believe the schedule includes some Saturday games as well as Sunday and Monday.
Yeah. So there's going to be 6 days in a row with NFL. I mean, it's and it's too bad because Friday was always traditionally football, and you'd watch some games. I don't care for Iowa and Nebraska, but you know what? I'm going to watch, and now maybe I'm not, depending on who's playing on Friday. So you're exactly right. Speaking of college football, boy, what a change! The SEC may want to if they could find a time machine. They go back to COVID and go, let's redo all this all over again because it has not been good for them post-COVID. 3 straight national champs from the Big Ten, all 3 different teams, including, again, Clutch My Pearls, Indiana. Still will never get over that. Heisman Trophy winner of the Big Ten. Now, the Big Ten's 2014 playoff model we were talking about here in the break, that's now the ACC is behind that. And all of a sudden, you've got the rest of college football ready to go to this 2014 playoff. You and I thought that was dead 2 months ago. Not only is it revised, it's the flavor of the month.
Yeah, when the ACC comes out and says, you know what, we're going to back this. We like this idea. We love this 2014 playoff. Well, it's probably the only way you get more ACC teams in is to expand it to a 20, especially the way things are going right now. And if you're the SEC, you kind of feel like Custer, at the last stand. And you're looking around, and the Big 12 and the Big 10 and the ACC are all circling you. It's like, so either they dig their heels in more and say, we're not going to buy this. I don't care how many teams want it. But to me, does that cause other fractures in this group? We've already seen where the Big Four has kind of taken themselves and removed themselves. Do they get to the point where the SEC says, okay, we're going to take our ball and go home? We're just going to play amongst ourselves. We got enough schools. Screw you. Go have your playoff. We'll have ours. And, we'll let the fans decide who the best team is.
Yeah. I don't want to go down this road, but acknowledging the road exists. There's also the political ramifications of this in terms of the things with voting rights in southern states. Could that become a problem in terms of players not going to the SEC and again, changing the landscape of college football? Again, too deep of a conversation now, but it exists.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's one. Look, we could spend a whole show on that. I think at some point, and I don't want to go into it now, but I do think something is going to happen with that regard as we move down the future of these deals. I don't know if it's going to happen first in recruiting or if it's going to be where players get together and do something. I don't know, but I do think that is going to have ramifications in the sporting world as we move forward.
Yeah, it's a lot of changes in college football, and some of it is beyond the playing surface as well. But as of right now, this 2014 playoff that, again, looking more and more like more teams want it. Will the SEC jump in? What caveats will be made? All that will be revealed in due time. Okay, our moment of awe is up next. Those old golf clubs sitting in your garage right now, there's a good chance they're worth real money. That driver you replaced, those irons you upgraded, even that putter collecting dust. Golf Roots lets you trade them in for cash or credit toward your next set. And right now, Sports IQ listeners get exclusive offers. Take $20 off any order over $100 with code SIQSALE, or get a 15% bonus on your trade-in value with code SIQ TRADE-IN. That means the clubs in your garage could be worth even more. Golf Roots is on a mission to make golf more accessible, offering high-quality, pre-owned name brand clubs for every skill level. And if you're just starting out, the Just the Roots starter set is one of the most affordable ways to begin, with full trade-in credit when you're ready to upgrade. So don't let your old gear sit there losing value. Go to golfroots.com and see how you can start or upgrade your golf journey today. Use code SIQSALE for $20 off or SIQ TRADE-IN for 15% extra when you trade in your old clubs. That's golfroots.com. Golf Roots. Upgrade smarter.
Okay, today's moment of awe goes out to 18-year-old Julian Hall. And I know what you're thinking. Larry, what did a high schooler have to do to get your moment of awe? Come on. Well, Julian is not a high school kid. Julian is 18 years old and is a forward in the MLS for the Red Bull New York team. In last night's game against the Columbus Crew, Julian became the youngest player in MLS history to score a hat trick in a game. Hall scored twice in the first half, once in the second, to lead New York to a 3-2 win over Columbus. Hall, 18 years old, 18 years and 50 days old. He broke the former FC Dallas striker Ricardo Pepe's record of 18 years, 196 days old. Pepe got his hat trick in a game against the LA Galaxy back in 2021. Well, Julian Hall, you set the record. And for that, young man, can't even drink yet legally, you are today's moment of awe. We appreciate our guests stopping by. We appreciate you as well. Make this a great day, and we'll do it again on Friday here on the Sports IQ.
Thanks for listening to Sports IQ with Larry Smith, Monday through Friday. Continue the conversation at Sports IQ LS. We'll see you next time.